Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka BrothaTech, and it's just me. Nica is out of town globetrotting as usual, and I'll be honest, I didn't feel like finding a guest host, so you just got me for this week's episode of the SnobOS Show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. This is episode 239 of the SnobOS Show, so definitely I want to say, as per usual, thank you for your support. Continue to listen, continue to download, continue to rate, continue to tell a friend about the show. We definitely thank you for your support. For those who are supporting the show financially, we definitely want to say thank you. If you want to become a financial supporter on the show, keep the lights on. We're testing and trying new software to make the podcast better and better and better. So we definitely appreciate those who support us financially. Like I mentioned, if you want to become a Patreon supporter, please go to patreon.com/snoboscast. In addition to showing your love to the show, we give you a little something in return. You're able to watch the show as we record it live. You're actually able to get the show early because, of course, you are watching as we are recording. So in addition to that, we do publish the show earlier to our Patreon supporters, and you get exclusive content you will not hear on the actual show. So we definitely want to thank you, all of our Patreon supporters. We lovingly call them snobists. So again, like I said, thank you for that support. Having said all that, let's get right into the show. We're going to start with the lowdown, where we talk all things, I said where I talk all things Apple. There's a couple things. This show is going to be short because, again, it's just me. I'm not talking to somebody. I'm not getting, vibes off of anybody. And I don't know how people do podcasts by themselves because this is a struggle, but we're going to get to it. So all that being said, the show's going to be a little bit shorter, but I definitely want to touch on some things that I wanted you to know about, specifically with Apple. Like I said, we always start with the lowdown, and the first things first. Today, if you're listening to this, is Friday, but on Wednesday, Apple released a couple of updates that I wanted you to know about. The first one is iOS 17.1.1. There's a couple of updates that I want you to know about in this iOS 17.1.1. The first one is it fixes Apple CarPlay bug where users report that after using a BMW charging pad to wirelessly charge their iPhone 15, the device would go into recovery mode when lifted off the charger. And then once powered on, NFC would stop working. If you're not familiar, NFC is the main thing behind Apple Pay, and noticeably digital car keys, which lets users unlock their cars using their iPhones. So this one's crazy. The fact that if I'm in my car and I drive a BMW and I put my phone on the wireless charging pad, when I take the phone off of the charging pad, it goes into recovery mode and disables NFC. That's important because now with NFC off, I can no longer use Apple Pay to pay for things. And I can't get back into my car because the BMW digital car keys uses NFC. So I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people itching for this update to come out. So the next one I got is HomePod software version 17.1.1 comes alongside of iOS 17.1.1. And this one adds support for enhanced dialogue on HomePod Mini and HomePod first generation, so you can hear spoken voices more clearly over effects, action, and music in a movie or TV show when paired with Apple TV 4K. This update also addresses an issue where some HomePod speakers could respond slowly or fail to complete requests. Now, personally, I have a couple HomePods in the house, and I don't even like calling out to Homegirl. I don't want to alert any other of my devices around, but I don't want to even call out the homegirl on any of my HomePods because it's a crapshoot whether or not she's going to be able to hear what I say and then spit out or respond fast enough, because by the time she figures it out, I can just look on my watch and figure out what the weather is outside versus calling her, who's going to take forever. Speaking of which, iOS 17.1.1 also fixes a weather app bug that showed a broken icon on screen. Personally speaking, like I mentioned, it fixes the HomePod where it responds much faster. So when I'm in the shower or in my bathroom and I need to find out what the weather is before I put on some clothes, not only is it going to respond faster, but if I do need to go on my phone, I can actually look at the weather without some weird bug showing up on the screen. So the next one I have is macOS Sonoma 14.1.1 comes out as well. Apple really doesn't say what they fixed or patched or any bugs that they addressed. So we'll just have to take a word for it. I haven't downloaded macOS Sonoma 14.1.1 yet. So, and I'm personally haven't had any issues, but maybe some people are having issues. Just wanted folks to know that Apple did address it in macOS Sonoma 14.1.1. If you're out there and you're having an issue with a Mac with macOS Sonoma, let me know. Hit me up. What issues were you having, and did 14.1.1 actually fix those issues? So the next story I got up in the lowdown is Macs are now dry snitching, literally snitching on you if your Mac isn't dry. Mac OS Sonoma 14.1 includes a new system daemon that can identify when the computer has been exposed to liquids. More specifically, this daemon runs in the background to collect liquid detection analysis from each USB-C port on the Mac. My Mac, I have a M1 Pro, MacBook Pro, and it's got 1, 2, 3 USB-C ports on it. Any of those ports get any sort of moisture or liquid, my Mac will collect that data. And if I have to then go to Apple because something happened, air quotes, to my Mac, the geniuses or the Apple reps will be able to run the diagnostic, and this system daemon will snitch on me and tell the Mac folks that I did drop soda on my Mac. So if you are clumsy out there, you may want to hold off on getting Mac OS Sonoma, especially if you like to drink while you work. All right, so the last story I have in the lowdown is a WhatsApp client has been added to the Mac AppStore. So I'd say about a year or so ago, Meta made it available for you to download the WhatsApp client. Then you go on your phone and kind of authenticate that you're using the same WhatsApp account. And you can actually type and respond, view chats, converse that way via the Mac desktop client. Well, just recently, they've added the WhatsApp client directly to the Mac App Store. The difference is instead of going to Meta to download the client, which is essentially a third-party client, you can open up the Mac Store and install WhatsApp directly from the Mac App Store. The benefits are, like I mentioned, one-click installs. I don't know if you download a lot of software, but if you go to a third-party website, download software, you then gotta approve this. You gotta give it access to that. So it's like 2 or 3 things to where you've got to click through before you finally actually get the software downloaded and actually running. Well, if you fire it up from the Mac App Store, skip all those steps, is going to download, do all the permissions necessary, and you can get up and running with just one click. Another one is automatic updates. Instead of me getting an email or a push notification that there's a new WhatsApp Mac desktop client, and then I got to go open up the WhatsApp, authenticate, and check the updates. If I'm doing it via the Mac App Store, once that update is notified, it'll ping my computer, enable me to update that directly, and then no malware risk. One of the things Apple has really been good at, vigilant at, is letting people know and even blocking the ability in some cases, the ability to download software from a third-party client unless you give it specific instructions for that very reason. Any software downloaded outside of Mac App Store, you run the risk of getting malware. Now, I'm not saying any software from the Mac App Store completely eliminates malware, but you're less likely to get malware if you're downloading it from Apple versus some random website. So that's going to do it for the lowdown. And I guess for this one, I'm going to skip directly down to the hookup because I definitely like to provide tips, tech tips, Apple tips, whatever the case may be every week. And this one is a personal one because for the past 2 days, I've been struggling, trying to figure out why I cannot get this new printer that I purchased connected to my network and connected to my other devices like my phone, like my computer, like my tablet, to actually print using the AirPrint, the Apple AirPrint technology built into the printer. Scratching my head, reset routers, reset computers, reset everything, could not figure it out. So much so that I was ready to take the printer back to the store. And believe it or not, just this week, I had a dream about how to fix the issue. I woke up out of my sleep like 6 in the morning and actually tried this tip, and it actually worked. I'm not the most complicated person, but I do have a lot of devices, and I actually have a gateway router combination for my internet provider. And I also have a mesh network router that I personally purchased and actually set up so all of my devices can then connect to the internet from my internet service provider. Well, the problem that I finally figured out what it was since my gateway router has a router and my network also has a router, the Wi-Fi signals that I was sending out was competing with each other. What I decided to do, and this is my tip, if you have multiple routers in the house, you have to actually log into the administrator system for one of those routers, and you have to enable or disable bridge mode. And basically what bridge mode is, you can actually go in there into the system and decide whether or not you want to turn on or off just the Wi-Fi portion. It'll still act as a gateway. It'll still be able to connect to wired devices. But if you enable or disable bridge mode, then that gives you more flexibility as to what router you want to use to transmit Wi-Fi throughout the house. Lo and behold, I picked my gateway router to provide the Wi-Fi, and I set up my mesh routers in access point mode, and I connected them manually to my router, and boom, everything worked. The printer worked, and actually some of the HomeKit devices that I've been struggling trying to stay on my network, those lit up and worked better than the first time I actually tried to set them up. So that's my tip for the week. If you have multiple routers in the house and you've got them plugged up and they're working and you're having issues with devices connecting to each other, or devices actually connecting to the internet, even though you know and been able to confirm that they are in fact connected to your Wi-Fi, you might want to check and find out which router is actually broadcasting the Wi-Fi. And if there isn't more routers broadcasting the same Wi-Fi network, go into the system settings, turn on or off bridge mode, and that will solve your issue. So I think that's going to do it for this week's show. I definitely appreciate you listening to me. I had trouble just listening to me. I would much rather prefer having hosts and guest hosts, but we had to roll solo dolo this week. So I definitely want to thank you for listening to my voice this week. Again, I am BrothaTech. You can find me at BrothaTech on the internets. And you can find the show at snoboscast.com. Go to our website, download the show, find out more about me and Nica, find out how you can become a financial supporter, and just support the show. So until next week, I am out. Peace.